And so tonight's topic is working for builders. One of the, I don't know if you would say best line of work to be in. I like it. I used to like it more. I love the fact that, it required travel. I loved, being gone 3 or 4 days and doing a job, whether it's out of town, out of state. But in my younger days, I really, really enjoyed it. But working for builders can be a good thing, especially for someone who's definitely, just getting started. And so we're going to look at our objectives real quick. We're going to discuss the difference between the commercial builder and the residential builder, their personalities, the way they run their business. It's a little bit different for each. We're going to talk about where do I find work? How do I find the work that the builders are offering? And it's real simple with, the commercial builders. They're looking for landscape contractors. They're looking for plumbers. They're looking for all the trades. There is so much commercial work going on and not enough tradesmen to actually keep up with the demand. How do we bid these projects? What is it that they're looking for from us prior to the bids? We're going to talk about being the right subcontractor. And we also need to talk about them actually being the right builder that we would want to work for. Sometimes personalities clash, and sometimes you just get in that groove working for one or two and things just run smooth. And that's how you can create that winning partnership. You can be on a level with some of these guys that, if they're doing the same type of work over and over again, if they're building a Biscuitville and they're building that thing 30 different times, they pretty much know what they're going to spend on landscaping, and, they're going to call you and it's going to be a handshake, especially if you've done the previous 29 for them. We're going to talk about site rules for contractors, meaning us, because, we need to be very professional on the job sites and not, make the owners ourselves look bad. And then we'll talk about whether or not we are an employee for that builder or if we are still looked at as an independent contractor. And there's some guidelines that we need to look at that. And a lot of this can also apply to actually how we pay our employees. Too many landscape contractors are, 1099 and their employees. And that's a no-no because there's certain rules that have to be met for those employees to be a 1099 contractor. So the difference, what is the difference in these two? Now, you guys bring in your opinions and your experience working for these guys. I prefer working for the commercial builder versus the residential builder. And I'll tell you why in a minute, but what do y'all think is the difference between these two guys?
I know I'm going to get paid.
Do what, Mr. Prince?
I'm going to get paid from a commercial.
You are. You're definitely going to get paid. It still may take some time. And what's the longest you've ever had to wait, Mr. Prince?
90 days.
90 days. That's the longest. You ain't had anybody drag you out just a little bit longer?
Not on commercial, no, sir.
Typically it is anywhere from 30, 60, but usually 90 days. The longest we actually took to get paid from one builder was right at a year. But we have done so much work for them, and they approached us and said, hey, we've got a situation where we made a mistake. And we're like, what's that mistake? They're like, well, we didn't hire you to go and do it. Some of these builders are like having 2 or 3, different trades, on the hook. And so we were working for a builder all over the Southeast, and they done a job in Alabama, and we didn't go and do the irrigation or the landscape. And they're like, we have a major problem with the irrigation. They said, it's going to take us a while to pay you. Can you go and fix it? We're like, yes, we'll go and fix it. Luckily, they had some other mistakes not mistakes, but they had some accidents. They had a tractor and trailer back over one of the backflows we put in another state. So we kind of made like a 4-day trip and went around fixing all that stuff. And we got paid for the repairs fairly quick. But that one job in Alabama, it took a solid year. And what it was, the irrigation guy down there used drain fittings on all of his joints, and they turned it on and they had water just coming up everywhere. And so we'd go and fix one and then have to find the next one, fix it, find the next one, fix it, find the next one. So we were there, about a day and a half doing all that. But it took a year.
Sorry, Eric.
No, man.
Do you think because all the change orders, it took a year for you to get paid?
No. What took so long is they're like, they made the mistake. They'd already paid this guy and they just didn't have the funds. And so they're like, can you help us out? And we're like, yeah, because they give us so much work, and we trusted them. We really did. And it was kind of a, hey, kind of scratch my back thing. And luckily, like I said, there were the accidents, like the tractor and trailer. That was in Columbia, South Carolina. Tractor and trailer drove in, knocked over the backflow, messed up the sod, broke a few heads. And so we got paid for that. Our costs were covered in that trip because there was so much other little things that we had to go and fix. And it did. it took them a year and we knew it. And, they kept giving us other work. So, and basically, I don't know, sometimes you got to do that. And like I said, they fed us a lot of work and we got everything that was, centrally located around us. And then that's why we were willing to kind of go and help them that far away. But what's the difference in personalities between these two? Because I've seen some rough residential builders, some guys that I don't want to ever work for ever again. Yeah, it's Friday. It's Thursday night. Where's these residential builders headed right now? The bar, Myrtle Beach. You're not going to find them on a Friday afternoon when you're hoping to get a paycheck, right? They're just not going to be here. They're not on site. Now, granted, there are some really good residential builders that have superintendents, that have employees that are on the job site. But if you're working for that single owner operator that's a builder, he is, what I call a clipboard builder. No tools on the truck. He's tiptoeing around in flip-flops and a pink shirt and all this stuff, afraid to get dirty.
Exactly.
These are the guys I don't want to work for.
Eric,
yeah.
You want me to tell you something
Yeah.
About residential builders? I got stuck with, I got burnt back when the economy was bad. We were doing some work for a high-end builder, residential builder, and he went bankrupt and about left me with about 14 grand. And I went to court. He didn't even show up, and I never seen any of that money. So, yeah, you got to be careful.
Yeah,
you work for.
Yeah, and when he declared bankruptcy, if he went into the courtroom when he filed, and he had your invoice in it,
yep,
it wipes it clean. Like he doesn't owe it. He doesn't.
Yeah, he got everybody on that house. Well, actually, 2 houses. I did. But yeah.
I'm stuck with 12 from one in 06.
Yeah, mine was about 07, 06. Yeah, about 06. Yeah.
Yeah, it's, I don't know. Buddy of mine's a plumber, and we use him sometimes to set our backflows for irrigation system. And back when the economy turned, it was 08 or 09, they were doing a bunch of apartments in Boone. And they got stuck for about 200 grand.
Mm.
And the funny thing is that they made it through it. Like, I'm like, dude, how do you write that off? He's like, we just keep trucking. He's like, you can't stop. And then, luckily he said at that time when the housing kind of market crashed, other things started picking up, more commercial, more other commercial builders building the apartments, but they got stuck up in Boone for, like you said, about 200,000.
And Eric, what I did in 06 is if you, that was residential, not commercial.
Yeah.
In 06. But when I showed my CPA, the invoices and not got paid, I was able to write some of that off.
Yeah. And that's, the only good thing about it, but it sucks, man. And, you want to kill him when you see him, but, they probably moved and, you'll never see him again.
This guy was a fireman. He just did. Yeah. This guy was a fireman. That's why I trusted him. But he burnt me. He burnt everybody on that house.
Yeah. Well, I know, we were, we're builders, still builders, but we were building back then too. And the actual president of our Home Builders Association went belly up. The coolest, most Christian guy I ever met. And I walked into Lowe's Home Improvement one day and he had on the apron. And I went over and I talked to him. I said, man, what are you doing? He said, dude, I lost everything.
Me too, dude. And he worked at Home Depot. I mean, I'm serious. It's terrible.
He said, Eric, he said, they took the rings off my wife's finger. He said, they took her fur coat. He said, they left us with just a few pair of pants and shirts, and they took everything to sell to try to pay some of this off. And he said, here I am working at Lowe's, and I forgot where she went to work, but they was renting a 1-bedroom apartment somewhere on top of a garage. And he's doing a whole lot better now. I mean, he's back into the building, but he's not an actual builder himself, but he's in the construction business. But he said, hell, I had to suck it up for 10 years, and he said, we paid for everything. Yeah. I mean, he said, we paid for what we did, but he said, I didn't want to do my guys this way. But, he was building out a complete townhome division when the economy tanked, and the developers and the banks come after you hard for those payments. And so he had no choice but to file. So, it happens. It does happen to some of these guys, and they may be good people. And, look what's happening today. There might be some landscapers that file with everything, with the fuel and stuff going up right now. It's a scary time, and it's cyclical. I mean, it's up, down. After 08, 09, it kind of was rough there for a little bit, and then everything started picking back up. And then, guys, look at COVID. We all had windfalls then, didn't we? I mean, there was so much work going on. We were considered essential employees. We were lucky.
Yep.
So.
Very lucky.
Yeah. You never know what's about to happen. And I had friends that owned gyms, few barber shops, they lost everything again. I mean, they're working for somebody else now instead of having their own thing. So, and it does happen to good people, which is a sad thing. But these residential builders, they just have a bad rap. And if you talk to the general contractors board, they talk about it all the time. When I go and get my continuing education, it's just half of that is listening to all the cases that were filed against builders. And it's funny that these guys are smart enough to get their license, but dumb enough to lose it and be sued. And some of them even locked up behind bars for what they do. But these personalities, what is the difference between that commercial and the resident? The one thing I like about the commercial is they answer the phone. There's somebody you can talk to in the office. You can talk to the project manager. You can talk to the superintendent on the job site. You can talk to accounts payable, accounts receivable. There's somebody in that office that you're going to be able to get in touch with. The residential builder, his voicemail is always full. You can't leave him a message. He's not answering the phone. He doesn't reply to the text. And they're going to call you that morning expecting you to be there because all of a sudden they're now ready for you. This commercial builder is going to schedule you. They're going to say, hey, we're ready for you next week, in 2 weeks. And if you have that reputation with the superintendent and get to know them on a personal level, they're going to stay ahead of the game. They're going to let you know a few weeks in advance, hey, we're going to be ready for you, 1st of July, you guys be ready. And so you accommodate that and you fit it into your schedule. With their business structures, the commercial builder is definitely going to be incorporated or an LLC. There's still a lot of residential builders out there operating as sole proprietors. They're not dividing up, their personal income and their, business income. I don't like that. I want to have that true company that we're working for. Management style. Like I said, there are some good residential guys that do have superintendents, that do have an office, that does have somebody that can answer the phone, but 95% of them, their cell phone and a clipboard, and that's all they got. They don't even have pickup trucks. They're actually, what I call the clipboard builder. And then that commercial GC, streamlined. A lot of them have websites you can log in. You can see their whole schedule. You can see, a buddy of mine's still a framer, does a lot of framing for one of the local track builders here. He's like, Eric, I never see anybody. I log in every week and it shows their houses. We can bid on it. If we get selected for it, they put us on the schedule and I can kind of follow that house, through, the footers being poured, foundation in, and then we're there. We can see when we're going to do it. He said, I submit the pay applications. If I get them submitted on a Thursday, he said, we get paid on a Friday. So there are companies that can still do that. When it comes to bidding or estimating, really with that residential builder, you're kind of going to give him a price. Commercial, you're going to be bidding, and you're going to be bidding against other people. And yes, they are looking for the low bid. Unless they just have a good reputation for with you, that they may not be looking for somebody else. We wanted to bid on a new Publix that was being built here in Winston. And what's funny is we know the developer well, and we work at other projects for them. They're based out of Charleston, South Carolina, and we've got to know them pretty much on a personal level. And they give us the set of drawings and say, hey, look, Eric, we're going to start construction on this in about 2 months. We haven't selected the general contractor, but we'd like to know what a rough estimate was going to be to maintain the project. I'm like, well, we'd like to bid the installation. He's like, well, we don't know about that. That's going to run through the GC. But he says, we'd like for you to give us a price on the commercial maintenance side of it. And, we'll be giving you a call when the project's definitely done if you don't do the landscape. And it popped up in the blue book. We looked through the drawings, looked through everything, no landscape plans. Why was there no landscape plans in those set of construction documents? Because the landscape architect is the one controlling the landscape construction. And it lists in Blue Book, it listed the builders that were bidding on the job. I picked the phone up and I said, hey, can we bid on the landscape job? They're like, we can't even bid on it. That's running through the landscape architect. Well, the landscape architect, we know that the LA well only uses one company. So how can they have such a strong hold with these developers? It's like, if we design the project, you have to use our approved landscape contractor. They're not even going to let it be bid out. And so it's good. And I know the guy that owns the company, and I mean, he's like, yeah, we do a ton of work for that LA office, but there's no competitive bidding there. It's actually just brought in house. They're kind of doing their construction management services with that whole design package. What are some pros and cons of each one of these builders? Because each one of them does have. Charles, you had a question. Sorry, I just saw your hand up. Mr. Jensen, I'm sorry. I just saw your hand go up. All right. But what are some pros and cons of each one of these guys? The pros, commercial. Yes, you're going to get paid. It is guaranteed. You are going to sign a lien waiver before you get paid. That's the one thing that I don't like. But also,
Eric,
yes.
what about the con of being the lowest bidder?
Yes. And that is a con of it, because let's say we're bidding on a job and we get it. And then we start thinking, we're like, oh, shoot, we left something out. Are we able to walk away from that contract?
No.
We're stuck. We're stuck because we submitted a bid bond, more than likely. What's that bid bond guaranteed to the owner? Guarantees that owner is going to get the lowest price. And so if you submitted a bid that was substantially low and they selected you, and then you realize, hey, I left out this, I left out that, I can't do this job, they're going to activate that bond and they're going to use that money to go after the next lowest bid. And it still guarantees to the owner that they're getting the cheapest bid. And it is. But on a professional level, and I've done this with some of the other landscape contractors around, especially the guys that I know well. We bid on the same job. You know, if we both get it, if one of us gets it and the other one don't, or if we both not get it, we're still talking back and forth. I'm like, hey, what'd you bid on that job? Guys, as a professional licensed landscape contractor, we should be pretty darn close, right? Because we're paying the same material price. We should all have a close enough labor rate.
Let me say something about that.
Yeah, man.
All right. We actually, which I stayed super busy anyway, but we actually bid on a lot of we joined the Blue Book.
Yeah.
About a couple years ago. We did it for a whole year.
Yep.
I bet I bid back. I don't know if I was too high or what, but when we bid something, we bid for specs. We actually do what the specs say. We put the soil conditioner that's supposed to be in the beds. I know a lot of these contractors are not doing the specs. They're not doing it right. I mean, they cut corners. I'm not saying all, but there are some. And, you know, we didn't get but one job out of maybe 30 bids we bid. And the one job went good. It was a local commercial place down here in Greensboro, but yeah, that went great. But we bid a bunch of stuff and didn't get it. I don't know if we were too high or what, but I just, we bid to specs, you know?
Yeah. And Grant, that's the, sometimes can be a bad thing for us because we are doing what they're asking for. And then everybody else is cutting the corners.
Right.
You know, but these guys are eventually going to get caught. And there's going to be that landscape architect that shows up on the job site that's going to start scratching around and be like, you know, where's soil conditioner? Where's the peat moss? Where's all this stuff at? I don't know what you're talking about.
That's where I run into issues with commercial on our business, because our one of our maintenance clients, it's a big commercial property. It's a very, very large maintenance contract, had a big addition. They asked me to quote out the project. You know, they gave me to the GC, all that stuff. Well, another local company got the contract. Well, it turned out they were half the price. Well, once they put it in, it called for a ligustrum hedge that was at every 4.5 foot. Well, they put them at every 9 foot. So they eliminated half the plants that I had priced out. So then, you know, I talked to the manager goes back to them and they make them come back and put those plants in because that's what the specs said, and they had to eat that cost. But it's the same thing with there's another business here as well that I bid on a large commercial city job, and another company got it. Well, it called for, you know, liners under this planting and like all this stuff. Well, they didn't put any liners in. They didn't put the rock at the correct depth and all this stuff. So it's like, for me in our business, I get frustrated with commercial bidding because of those types of things. It's the lowest bid, and they're going to go with kind of who can do some shady stuff and undercut things. So we've really focused heavily on residential builders, and we've developed really great relationships, and it's quadrupled our business. Like, it's just exploded from our end on that. And
you're picking out the good residential builders. Like I said, there are good ones out there. You know, we've just had a bad taste with, you know, the guys that head to Myrtle Beach every Thursday evening. Can't find them.
No, the builder that we work for, the two main ones, have been in business for like 50 years. You know, it's long reputation, great clients. And really one of the biggest things that they do is most of their clientele are not bank loan people. They're paying for their house. And so what our contractor does, he lets us get a contract with the client. The client signs the contract, they pay me, and then they'll just take my invoice and mark it up to 10 or 12% they want to charge. So nothing's really even ran through the contractor majority of the time unless there's a bank loan.
Yeah. Well, and like you said, you ever seen a draw sheet from a bank?
Yeah.
And you see down there at the very bottom, what's landscaping usually? What percentage?
Small.
Yes. I've seen them 1%.
Yeah.
You know, and, you know, out of come on, $450,000-$500,000 house, they're putting $5,000 in landscape, and that's all that builder wants to put in. And when we show up, they're already working the overages and stuff that they've gone on the inside. And so the homeowners are like,
landscape's the first place they pull out of when they have overages every time.
We're the last ones in, the last ones to get paid. But a lot of the times with these commercial builders, when you look at the landscape plans and you see the specs, if you see that it's a landscape architect that's designed the project, we're pretty much safe on bidding it to the specifications. If it's a civil engineer or or the building architect itself that does the site plan, all they're doing is for zoning. And so, Josh, it's kind of crazy how some of that commercial work got even passed with half the plans, because usually the municipality's zoning regulations, they're going to come out and inspect that, and they're just going to count trees.
Yeah.
So they're not worried about whether there's soil conditioner or peat moss or anything like that. They're just counting the size and how many for your zoning and how many trees you got to have for a parking lot, stuff like that. So
every commercial job, at least from my perspective that I've been involved in, has been like the commercial person has a relationship with this certain contractor, and they're basically just trying to get bids to show that they got bids. That's just been me from my perspective.
I think that's what we run into with the blue book, with the bidding on some of these other, these commercial jobs, probably.
And it's a lot of work to bid, like
it is, but if you have a system in place, pretty much, a 3-gallon shrub's pretty much going to be the same price no matter what it is. Because a lot of this commercial stuff, it's the same plant material over and over again.
Yeah.
Crepe myrtles, dwarf Burefords, sunset red maples, and a lot of this stuff, you're going to kind of know the price. And if you know your square footage for irrigation, if you know your square footage for sod, square footage for mulch, you can do a takeoff pretty quick. I'd much rather sit down with a set of blueprints than to actually work with that residential client that doesn't have a set of plans that you meet with them over and over again, and they still can't decide it. And then they're like, guys, you really need to talk to a landscape architect first. Let's get your plans drawn, and then I can estimate the job for you.
Yeah.
And everybody's on the same page then.
Yeah. You have to be. You have to be.
That's kind of where I differ, though. I enjoy the design aspect of it. Coming from architecture background.
Yes. Yeah. You had that degree in it.
Yeah. So I enjoy that, and I charge them for that. So,
and that's the key. A lot of these residential customers, their eyes are bigger than their checkbooks.
Oh yeah.
And so they just don't want to pay for the design.
Yeah.
And that's what really, I'm not going to argue with it. I'm like, guys, here's the fee for the design. If you want, the landscape architect to come out here, we work with one, she'll come out and she'll draw this up for you. And then I get the set of plans and I can give you the fairest price based on the plans. And she'll help pull out what it is that they do want. Cause half the time these residential guys, they don't know what they want. We have to help them figure out what it is that they want.
Yeah, and that's what we do. And I just chart like say I'm doing a big design and it's $1,000 or whatever it is. Then, when I go into it, I'm like, well, I'm going to charge you $1,000 for this design. I'm going to price it all out. I'm going to break it all down for you. If you put in the project, we'll deduct $1,000 off the installation. But what they don't know is that I'm including the $1,000 in their contract, so they pay for it regardless. Yep. But it's just that's just kind of how we operate.
Yeah, and I've even told them, hey, we'll write you a check back for the design, just so that they can actually feel like they're getting something, that they're getting truly back. And then, like you said, it's just added to the cost of the build. So
do you not think some of these commercial contractors are getting tired of the low ball bids though?
Yep. Yep.
I mean, I go up here, what I've started doing is just bidding it what I think it's worth. And, I fill in with residential quite a bit, but, I'll put it on there. And I mean, a lot of times I win the bid, not be the low bid, I guess on reputation or what have you, but
it is. Well, and like you said, they're starting to realize too, that we have a license, right? And that we're professionals just because, we have to have the bond. We've got to have the insurance to be licensed, the whole 9 yards. So they're starting to come around and look at us as the electrical trade, as the plumbing trade, because we are licensed professionals. But you're 100% right. They're tired of these low bid guys.
I just talked to one of my customers who's been through 3 vendors already this year. And I mean, they're just fed up, and they, I mean, we signed on them, but they're paying double what they're paying, but they're fine with it,
Yeah. Well, and it's, we've done like Grant, we joined the Blue Book and, calling these guys and saying, hey, we're going to bid on this job, because before I bid it, I call and I talk to these builders. I'll say, who's your project manager for such and such project? And they're like, well, so-and-so, let me get you his voicemail or here's his email. Always have that communication with them. And they're kind of shocked that, hey, you're wanting to bid this job. Well, you guys are out of Winston. Yeah. And so you're willing to travel. Yeah. They're like, how far will you go? I'm like, here's, we've been as far as Alabama, Florida, Georgia, Northern Virginia. And they're like, wow, we actually have somebody that's wanting to work and actually go and do these jobs. And so I guess they have been burnt, Charles. They sign a contract with these guys. They just disappear. They don't show up. Or if they do show up, they half do what they're expected to do. And guys, y'all see it every day. There's as many bad people in landscaping as there is builders out there claiming to be landscapers.
And Eric, may I say something?
Yes, sir.
If say like a commercial or residential, especially commercial, if they got a favoritism towards a landscaper, this is very illegal, they will share bids. So they might get a low bid of $100. You charge $100,000. They're going to tell their favoritism, hey, I got $100,000 bid. Can you do it for $75,000?
Yeah.
I mean, that's what I've run into.
Bid shopping. Yep.
Everywhere.
Yeah.
And which is illegal.
Yeah. Yep. But, there's a lot of unethical things and illegal things that do go on underneath the table. So it's one of those things. You got to have that relationship with the ones that you trust. And, we worked with Creative Structures for years out of Tennessee, and they were just the best to work for. The best. We did a bunch. Rettenbach Contractors. Years ago for those guys. Lomax Construction. I mean, some really good companies that, you know, their superintendents and their project managers have been with them 20 plus years. And that's the kind of people that you want to actually work with. So where do we find some of this work? Grant's talked about the Blue Book, the Dodge Construction Network, which is really owned by the Blue Book per se now. The Associated General Contractors of America, you know, you can join that organization as a sub. Direct mail or an email bid list. I mean, it's as simple as picking up the phone. And we did this COVID when we were, you know, had people in the office, and I actually had a young lady working for us, and she went through, we didn't have yellow book pages, but I had her Google every commercial builder that was, you know, within 100 miles of us. And she found them, and she come up with this email list, a mailing list, the phone numbers and a contact number. And we would just send out, hey, we'd like to be put on your bid list. And you start getting these emails. Hey, can you bid this job? Can you bid that job? And it worked out good. I mean, you're going to get some work from that. Like I said, a lot of these builders are surprised that people are willing to travel and actually willing to go and do some of these larger projects. Where do I bid the work? Well, you're going to get that request for proposals or request for bids. And before you do that, you probably might receive a request for qualifications. And what do you think these RFQs are? What are they looking for? They're looking to see if you're financially.
Licenses and insurances.
Yeah. What's that, Mark?
Licenses and insurance.
Yes. They want to see that you're licensed. They want to see that you have workers' comp, general liability, not just a driver's license and commercial vehicle liability. They want to see the whole 9 yards. They may also want to see what?
Your resume.
Resume. And what might they ask from the bank that you do banks with?
Credit.
Credit. They want to see a letter of like a credit reference from your banks. And they just want to make sure that you can complete the job, that you're financially stable enough to complete it, because you're not going to get a draw, you know, and our work.
Yeah, you hear a minute.
You may be on the job, you know, 2 days, you may be on it 2 weeks, you may be on it 2 months. Now, I would say if it was a month job, it's possible you could probably get a draw. But more than likely, you're not. You're going to complete the job and you're going to wait the 90 days to get paid. Now, they're also going to see you're bonded. And we actually have, what's our bond called that we have to have as a landscape contractor? What type of bond? It's the surety bond, right? What are some other bonds that they may want us to have in place prior to bidding these jobs? For one, that bid bond, we've had to submit that. Or what can you substitute in lieu of a bid bond? We bid on a job for the city of Reedsville, I mean, years ago. And you had to submit a bid bond, or you could bring a certified check. What does that do? Yeah, we're having to take money to bid the job. But what does that do? Billy, you're shaking your head. What's that mean, man?
That's taking a big risk, and I've had to do it before.
You've had to do it too, hadn't you?
Yes, sir.
Yep. And what is that check? What do they want that check or that bid bond when you submit your bid? You're like, here you go, owner. Here you go. What are they looking for?
And they want to make sure you
serious about
have
doing
the
the
funds.
job.
Yeah.
And that you got the funds. And if you get selected, what do they do with that certified check?
They deposit it in escrow.
They deposit it. If you're not selected, you get it. You can go and pick it up, or they'll mail it back to you. And it has to be certified. It can't be like on a company check or anything like that. It's usually a certified check from your bank, and you can, take it back to the bank. but they deposit it if you've got the job. And again, if you decide to walk away, hey, I forgot to include this on the job. You look at it and they say, you got to bring in all this topsoil and it's, tractor and trailer load of the stuff. I ain't doing it. What they going to do with that check in escrow then?
Keep it.
They keep it, and they're going to use that money to go after the next low bid guy to get the job done. And usually that check's for, I've seen it, probably around 10% of your bid price. So, it guarantees them that they're going to get the low price, but it also guarantees that they're getting qualified people to do the work that are financially stable to complete the job. So what are some other bonds we may have to have? Performance bonds, payment bonds, making sure that we've paid our suppliers, make sure that we have paid our nursery when we buy the plant material, make sure that we've paid Site 1 for all the irrigation parts. And a lot of the times you may have to show proof that you've paid them. So think about that.
Tough. That's tough
That is tough.
because you want a little bit of markup on that.
Yes. Yes. But I mean, look at it. We're carrying these, but we're actually financing this project for them.
Yes, you are.
And it, like I said, it can be good, but if you're just getting started and you don't have the cash flow, it can put you out of business real quick. But if you've established yourself enough, or if you've got a line of credit and you can actually front some of these projects, the pay is there. The pay is there if you can wait.
That's why we might not get a lot of commercial work from companies, because we require 30%. Because before, when I got burnt that time back in 06, we just did the job. I used to do jobs and not build people for a while. I mean, I was too trusting,
yeah.
And that ended up we got burnt, and I was like, we ain't doing this no more.
Yeah.
And we stay busy all the time. So, I mean, if somebody really wants us to do the job, big job, we usually get 30%.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Now, were you getting that from commercial builders?
Some, yeah. Yeah, when I did that other job from that one, we got some, yeah.
He gave you a little bit up front.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I mean, I've been in business since 95. I mean,
Yeah. And that's
we ain't going
cool,
nowhere.
because
we
a
ain't
lot
gonna
of these
run away
guys,
with,
a lot of these commercial guys won't do that.
right.
And, that's why they want to see that, reference, credit reference. And the some of them have even asked to see, bank statements, or have your CPA produce, P&L or whatever that they want to see that you can front the cost for it. Because the last thing,
we do a lot of work for this facilities management group.
yeah,
We've been working for them since 98. They give us a lot of landscape jobs. We bid on them, of course.
yeah.
But we get a lot of work from them over the years.
I didn't know you was in Greensboro, man. What's the name of your company?
Grant's Landscaping Services Incorporated.
Okay.
Yep.
You where are you at in Greensboro?
McLeansville.
Okay. So just east of it.
Yes, sir.
Got almost to Burlington, ain't you?
In between Burlington and Greensboro.
Okay. Cool deal. Good deal. Well, what types of insurance do we need? What's one thing they usually want us to add to our policies? On our liability, workers' comp, what do they like seeing them added as?
Additional
Insured.
Yeah.
It gives them just a little bit more protection. And, you've got to add them before they'll even accept the bid. So being that subcontractor, we subcontract the work with the GC or other subcontractors to complete a portion of the larger project. Here is the basic criteria you can use to evaluate whether you want to be a sub. Do you sell and produce quality products? Of course we do. Can you be reliable? Of course, every single one of us is. Are you able to complete the project according to the schedule? Now, Charles, I think this is what you were talking about. They've tried these low bid guys, and here's the thing. They're not reliable, and they definitely can't complete the project when they need it finished. We're up against the clock as soon as we hit the ground, because 9 times out of 10, they're probably, if it's a restaurant, they're putting in the kitchen equipment, they're putting in the booths and the tables, and they're ready for that. What are they usually waiting on us to finish so they can actually go and get from the inspections office?
CO.
That's CO. And the pressure can be on us to get that done. And when you see, and especially like, we did a ton of auto parts stores. When the tractor and trailer backs in and they're starting to put oil and stuff on the shelves, we better hurry up and be finished the next day, because 24 hours later, they're going to be selling auto parts.
Eric, I bid on a Lowe's Food. It's probably been about 10 years ago, and didn't get the job. And they were hauling groceries in, or food into the store. And I had to go in there with the contractor that bid the job and got the job. And we worked with that contractor because they called us to help finish, because
Wow.
they were not,
They couldn't get it done.
couldn't get it done.
Yep. And because what's the GC going to have to start paying if they don't get the job completed on the day they said they'd get it completed?
You're gonna have to pay a penalty and
Penalty fee.
And then they start charging it back to the sub that's delaying it. And those penalties can be several $1,000s a day.
Yep.
And so that ain't cool. That's why they've got to get it done. Well, cool deal. Well, guys, we are at the 50-minute mark. So we've got our 1 hour credit. Are there any questions, comments, concerns?
Hey, Eric.
Yes, sir. Hey, Mark.
Just a piece of advice for anybody who's thinking of getting into this. The couple of commercial jobs that I've done, you make an agreement with whoever it is, residential or commercial, and everything's supposed to be perfect. And then you get there and it's not a finished grade, it's a rough grade. There's rock everywhere, there's gravel in all the holes. And you almost, I got out of it because I had to untrain my guys. I had to tell them it's okay to put a camellia in a hole full of gravel. You can spend your whole day cleaning all that out, and you're getting killed right from the start. So
yes,
just a word to the wise, if you want to get into it. If you're used to being a finished landscaper doing really high quality work, you better forget that if you're going to get into the building process. It doesn't work.
Yep.
You'll get killed.
You will. But the one person I think we probably need to be best friends with is the grading contractor.
Yeah.
And if you go and buy him a 12 dozen, buy him a dozen donuts and a coffee when he's there, he's, hey man, that's all right. These guys are pretty cool. I need to fill up against the curbs, good enough. And we had such a good relationship with the grading contractor. He'd call us and say, hey, where do you want the sleeves put for the irrigation pipe? And he'd send us a bill for that. So we didn't even have to send a crew out just to put in sleeves. He's like, man, I'm here grading the site. And they poured the curb and gutter and did the pavement. It worked out great. He'd put the sleeves in a little too deep, but it was still, better than us having to travel, 5 hours to put in 2 sleeves and then drive back home. So
I guess I'm saying you just better know what you're getting into, and
yes,
don't dabble in it. You'll lose. You know.
What we normally do is when we get called from the general contractor, is go out and inspect before we start. And if we see anything that's not correct, we'll call it out before we start.
Yep.
And then another thing, Eric, I've said this before, is, I've had the construction company that graded and, curbs and everything else, and then they buried the sleeves 6 feet deep.
Mm-hmm. Yep. and then you're going to be spending a day digging them things out, finding them.
Especially
I said-
us with the water table. So
You gotta have eyes on ground. You know, you're gonna have to drive by and see these sites, like I said, and hopefully you've got a superintendent that's built some stuff before, not a kid right out of college with a construction management degree who's trying to prove himself to the owners. So, all right. Any other questions, comments? Brandon, did you ever figure that out, what we talked about on the phone?
No, not yet, but I'll check into it tonight or tomorrow.
Okay. All right, man. Just let me know.
Sure.
All right. Anything else?
You say thank you, man.
Y'all are free to go get a beer now.